There is a disease in men, a hunger to be liked. They walk with lowered heads, tongues wagging, offering loyalty as a stray offers its belly. They bark not to defend, but to belong. They become dogs, obedient, harmless, and pitiful. This is your first death. You were taught that loyalty is a virtue. It is not. It is a leash. The man who gives it freely becomes a slave, and the man who demands it without earning it becomes a tyrant. In both, the dog suffers. The dog, though celebrated for its loyalty, is truly a creature molded for submission. Its instincts are muted, its teeth reserved not for hunting, but for defending the hand that owns it. What the world calls loyalty is, at its core, a silent surrender of freedom. The dog lives not for itself, but for its master's will. It eats when allowed, is praised when useful, and punished when it resists. This creature, praised as noble, is in truth addicted to affection, enslaved by approval, and crippled by rejection. In life and politics alike, the man who mirrors the dog, seeking validation, wagging for praise, shrinking from disfavor, will forever kneel at the feet of others. He will never lead, for leadership demands independence of thought, comfort in solitude, and the will to act without applause. The dog, terrified of disapproval, cannot think beyond its master's desires. It moves only when commanded. This is the first and quietest death, the death of self-command. Such a man cannot endure in a world ruled by wolves and lions. The courts, the markets, the streets, all are filled with predators cloaked in silk, smiling with serpent grace. They do not bark. They do not beg. They do not announce their presence. They watch. They measure. They strike when it matters. The dog, desperate to be seen and accepted, exposes its soul with every wag of its tail. Its fears, its hopes, its weaknesses, all laid bare for sharper minds to exploit. The tragedy of the dog lies not in its loyalty, but in its delusion. It believes kindness will spare it. It believes obedience will protect it. It believes harmlessness will earn eternal love. But love fades. Circumstance shifts. Masters lose interest. And when danger arrives, no one shields the dog. It is sacrificed first or abandoned last. With teeth dulled by years of servitude, the dog that cannot hunt, cannot fight, and cannot live without affection becomes a burden. And burdens are discarded. In times of crisis, the dog cannot guard the gate. It growls to warn, but lacks both courage and cunning to act. It waits for others to do what it cannot. Thus it is never feared. And to be without fear is to be without power. For power is not born from being loved, but from being perceived as dangerous. A man with a dog's heart commands pity, not respect. But pity builds no empires. It wins no wars. It keeps no blades from your throat. This worship of the dog's traits, loyalty, obedience, gentleness, is a tool of the powerful. They preach virtue not because they honor it, but because it weakens those who follow it blindly. The powerful do not live like dogs. They only teach others to. They smile as the dog defends their wealth, fights their battles, and serves their ambition, all while believing itself noble. But nobility without freedom is only a softer word for slavery. To see the full prison of the dog, observe how quickly the world turns on it. The dog that bites even once is branded dangerous. The dog that disobeys is abandoned. The dog that questions its master is put down. The truth is clear. Obedience is never rewarded, only expected. And once it stops, the illusion of worth disappears. The servant who forgets his place is not corrected. He is erased. Thus the very virtues that once made the dog useful seal its doom. The dog is adored by the foolish and used by the wise. Its loyalty is paraded as virtue, its obedience mistaken for strength, its eagerness to please dressed as honor. Strip away the sentiment, and what remains is a being trained to crave approval, to shrink at rejection, and to trade its instincts for affection. The dog is not born to serve, but it is swiftly broken to serve. It is a slave disguised by love, and so is the man who imitates it. He believes safety lies in being agreeable, in yielding, in never being a threat. He fears conflict more than shame, punishment more than mediocrity. He learns to anticipate others' needs before they are spoken. not from wisdom, but from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of being seen as dangerous. His tongue moves quickly to apologize. His eyes search endlessly for permission. He never acts unless told to, never speaks unless invited. He drifts through life convinced that harmlessness is virtue, when in truth it is the quickest route to insignificance. The man with a dog's heart lives chained to public opinion. He blooms in praise and withers in criticism. A single compliment lifts him. A single frown destroys him. He cannot endure conflict because he has never tasted solitude. He cannot command respect because he has never dared to be feared. He clings to the delusion that loyalty grants safety, that kindness earns power, that submission leads to reward. But the world does not bend to such illusions. Power bows only to those who need nothing, who ask for nothing, who stand alone without trembling. Observe closely, and you'll see that those who rise in courts, in councils, in commerce, are never the ones desperate to please. The eager are tolerated, exploited, then discarded. The dog is allowed near the table, not to eat, but to sit beneath it. When the feast ends, a scrap is tossed its way, and it wags its tail with gratitude, believing itself fortunate. It calls this misery noble. It confuses proximity to power with power itself. But when famine strikes, or war erupts, or a more useful creature appears, the dog is thrown aside without a thought. For affection is not necessity. The dog lives under masters who never live as dogs. Kings do not bow to subjects. Generals do not beg soldiers for approval. Masters do not apologize to servants. Power is born from distance, discipline, and the will to act without permission. The dog, however, cannot survive solitude, silence, or disfavor. It must be seen, must be called good, must be told it belongs, and this need is its prison. Worse, it cannot even see the bars. It thinks itself free because it is not beaten. It thinks itself chosen because it is fed. It thinks itself loved because it is tolerated. But the moment it disobeys, the truth sharpens. The leash tightens. The hand once soft turns iron. The voice once warm turns cold. It was never love that bound the dog to its master. It was fear disguised as loyalty. The creature has been trained to mistake acceptance for survival. It is not honored, it is conditioned. It obeys not from agreement, but from the death of choice. Watch the dog when its master vanishes, when danger approaches, when hunger sets in. It does not know how to act. It paces, it whines, it waits. It has no instinct left to guide it, only dependence. It was rewarded for obedience and punished for initiative. It learned to distrust its own nature, believing safety exists only in surrender. And so, in crisis, it collapses, either frozen in fear or lost in confusion. It becomes useless to itself and to others. It traded its claws for comfort, and in the exchange lost both. In the theater of power, it is not sincerity that reigns, but disguise. And the finest disguise is the wolf. The wolf is not mere predator. It is the embodiment of restraint, precision, and silent strength. It is not born of chaos, but of necessity. In a world where men devour each other through words, laws, and false virtue, walking openly as a wolf is reckless. But to lack the wolf within is ruin. The wise man does not abandon the wolf. He carries it within, quiet, patient, observant. The wolf seeks no approval. It does not wag, does not beg, does not pant for affection. Its dignity is silent, its power solitary. The dog looks to others for protection. The wolf trusts its instincts and its teeth. It howls not for attention but for command. In the pack, the wolf ascends through demonstration, not through flattery. It understands hierarchy not as imprisonment, but as a ladder climbed by strength, not by words. To wear the wolf's mask is not to lose humanity, but to preserve it. Those who expose their entire nature are easily dismantled. The man who reveals his every thought becomes a map for others to exploit. The wolf knows concealment is defense. It does not rage when threatened. It waits, watches the ground, and strikes only when the outcome is certain. The fool attacks from emotion. The wolf attacks from understanding. True power demands not just action, but timing, and timing is the wolf's art. The wolf understands the art of waiting. It is never hurried by fear nor deceived by hope. It does not chase every chance it sees, but stalks the one that matters. The true mastery of the hunt lies not in chaos, but in stillness, the silence before the strike. While others rush toward bait, the wolf circles patiently, studying every movement, seeing the trap long before it snaps. This is why the wolf endures while others fall. Not because it is faster or stronger, but because it is patient, observant, and willing to do what the virtuous cannot. The wolf is not cruel. Cruelty belongs to the desperate. The wolf kills not for pleasure, but for purpose. It wastes no energy on revenge, no emotion on anger. It is disciplined. It knows that fear commands deeper obedience than love, and that silence carries more weight than pleading. Those who meet the wolf feel it immediately, a force that does not need to boast. No barking, no gestures, no speeches, only the certainty of consequence. That is power. To wear the wolf's mask is to understand duality. One cannot always act as the beast, for exposure invites destruction, yet one must always be prepared to become it. True strength lies in appearing gentle while remaining dangerous. The sheep rest easy beside the dog, but shiver when the wolf passes. The man who understands power learns to hide his fangs behind a calm smile. He offers kindness as a choice, never as dependence. He speaks softly, knowing that silence can wound more deeply than words. The man without the wolf within him is always exposed, too eager to explain, too afraid to offend, too desperate to be seen as good. The wolf is unmoved by perception. It seeks only results. It does not debate morality with the weak, nor justify its instincts. It acts, and through action defines itself. In that it is free, not because it rules others, but because it is untouched by their judgment. To understand the wolf is to grasp the necessity of masks. The world devours those who reveal themselves too easily. But the man who knows when to show his face and when to bare his teeth is untouchable. He is neither impulsive nor needy. He wields his presence like a blade, sheathed but ready. Loyalty is often spoken of as a crown, resting on the head of the virtuous, but this illusion was crafted by those who profit from obedience, not by those who understand power. Loyalty in its purest form is not a noble gift, it is a chain. It binds a man not to ideals but to dependency, not to justice but to servitude. It is a beautiful word invented to disguise submission, to decorate slavery, and to protect the interests of those who fear free men. The loyal man believes himself noble. He believes his devotion is strength. Yet look closer, and you'll see that what he calls virtue is paralysis. He cannot move without consent, cannot change allegiance even when betrayal would mean survival. He clings to constancy as if it were armor, unaware that it is the weight that drowns him. Those who worship loyalty above reason are the first to be sacrificed, and the last to be remembered. Masters, rulers, and opportunists all know the usefulness of the loyal. They are predictable, compliant, and harmless. They do not question. They do not resist. They suffer quietly and serve without protest. Their worth lies not in thought, but in endurance. And when their purpose fades, so does their protection. The loyal man who can no longer serve becomes a burden, and burdens are cast aside, not rewarded. The man who believes loyalty grants immortality is blind to the truth of those he serves. Gratitude is short-lived, and history is filled with the bones of men who thought devotion would make them eternal. Loyalty only has value when paired with intelligence. To be loyal without leverage is to offer your life with no conditions. The wise man knows this. He gives loyalty like a loan, not a gift. It is deliberate, temporary, and always retractable. He speaks of faithfulness, but his heart measures cost. He offers allegiance when it serves his interests and withdraws it when it threatens them. He does not mistake loyalty for morality. He understands that to survive, a man must sometimes shed his alliances, change his face, and alter his course. That is not betrayal, it is evolution. To demand loyalty from others is to reveal weakness. The strong never beg for allegiance. They command it through power, fear, and necessity. Only the weak disguise their fear with speeches of virtue, hoping emotion will bind what force cannot. And only fools give loyalty freely, not knowing if the one they serve would ever bleed for them in return. To stay loyal to a man who would not risk for you what you risk for him is to wear a collar and call it a crown. Worse still is loyalty to ideals, for ideals are even less faithful than men. They bend to circumstance, collapse under pressure, and often become tools for manipulation. The man who clings to a cause long after it has lost its soul is no different from one who refuses to flee a burning house simply because he once called it home. Principle, like loyalty, must be questioned and abandoned the moment it threatens survival. The dead have no right to call themselves noble. They simply decay, praised only by those wise enough to keep living. Those who rise to power, wealth, or freedom do not ascend by serving everyone, but by serving no one unless it serves them. Their loyalty is calculated. Their promises are temporary. Their faith belongs only to themselves. They form alliances, not attachments. They make agreements, not vows. And when the wind shifts, they adjust their sails without hesitation. It is not dishonor. It is understanding the storm. The man who dies loyal is remembered briefly by the very men who take his place. But the one who bends and survives is not called loyal. He is called alive. The world, beneath its polished manners, bows not to kindness, but to power. It yields not to the gentle, but to the dangerous. A man who whines when struck, who asks instead of demands, who seeks pity before inspiring fear, is destined to be stepped on. This is not cruelty, it is law. From the forest to the throne, nature has always knelt before strength. And strength is not shown in pleading or tears, but in silent defiance, fangs bared without sound. The man who wants safety must appear dangerous. Not loud, not reckless, dangerous. There's a vast difference between noise and threat. Dogs bark to scare, to pretend they are powerful, but they bark because they fear. The wolf does not need to bark. His silence speaks. His stillness commands. That is dominance, to say little, to act decisively, to let silence carry your intent. When men see in your eyes that you do not flinch, that you will not beg, that you will not hesitate, they learn not to test you twice. A man who cannot be feared will never be respected. He might be liked, even pitied, but never trusted with power. Leaders are not chosen for kindness, but for their ability to act coldly when duty demands. A prince who cannot punish is a puppet. A general who hesitates condemns his army. A man who cannot say no without apology will be used until he's hollow. The earth is littered with the bones of agreeable men, pleasant, smiling, harmless men who struck too little and forgave too much. Fear is not weakness, it is a tool, sharp and effective. It removes barriers faster than words ever could. One act of deliberate brutality lasts longer in memory than 100 kind gestures. Mercy is virtue only when the strong grant it. When the weak offer mercy, it is not admired, it is pitied. And pity invites predators. The strong do not negotiate with prey. They consume it. The man without fangs, who trembles at confrontation, offers himself to be devoured. To understand this is to understand survival. A man must not cry when wounded, must not defend himself when doubted, must not beg for fairness. Fairness is a story told by the powerful to calm the powerless. The world does not care what you deserve, only what you can claim and keep. To avoid being dominated, you must exude the ability to dominate. Never boast, but never yield. Train your face to betray no fear, your voice to show no weakness, your hands to stay steady, even in treachery. Things are not just weapons, they are symbols. The difference between the powerful and the powerless is not goodness, but permission. The strong do not wait for the perfect moment. They create it. They understand that kindness without leverage is weakness, and diplomacy without threat is noise. The one who can destroy but chooses not to, that is power. The one who cannot destroy and pleads for mercy, that is prey. Even in the so-called civilized world, the same law applies. In politics, the man who can ruin reputations is obeyed. In business, the one who can overturn the table dictates the deal. In life, the man known to punish betrayal without warning is rarely betrayed again. The whisper of capability backed by proof of ruthlessness changes everything. People choose their words carefully. They tread lightly. They give what they would never give to the desperate. There is no honor in dying for principle if your enemies cheer your fall. A man must learn to be steel wrapped in silk, gentle in tone, lethal in intent. He must look calm while capable of chaos. When you walk into a room, it is better to be feared than forgotten. Whimpers fade. Fangs endure. It is written into the laws of nature, carved into man's instinct, and echoed through history. The ones with fangs make the rules, the ones without follow them. No man ascends to power through universal affection. The craving to be liked is the first chain around the neck of ambition. It dulls instinct, weakens resolve, and forces a man to act not from necessity, but from the desperate need to be accepted. In doing so, he hands his authority to the very crowd whose approval he chases. The man who wishes to rise must learn that the true currency of power is not popularity, but clarity, and clarity demands choices that will be despised by many and respected by few. Hatred is not a sign of failure. It is confirmation that you have become visible, that your presence can no longer be ignored, that your actions unsettle the complacent. It is not the hated man who is in danger, but the man so harmless that no one remembers to fear him. Power cannot exist without enemies because power divides. Those above must be distinct from those below. That division breeds resentment, and resentment breeds hate. This is not a flaw, it is the cost of hierarchy. Only those willing to bear that cost ever hold anything real. The weak man seeks affection because he mistakes it for safety. He believes that if people like him, they will not strike him. That if he keeps everyone pleased, he will be protected. But safety built on approval is a fragile illusion. It lasts only until the moment he stops serving others' comfort. When he finally must choose between what is right for him and what keeps others happy, he stands alone. And if he cannot endure that solitude, he collapses. The strong man, in contrast, accepts isolation as the companion of leadership. He does not fear hatred. He calculates which hatreds are useful. It is better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. And almost no one can hold both without contradiction. Love is conditional, built on fantasy and expectation. It demands consistency, performance, self-erasure. When failure and love dissolves, but fear endures. It survives mistakes. It controls even the disloyal. It suppresses betrayal and enforces obedience. And when fear is tempered with respect, it becomes the foundation of true power. To accept hatred is to free yourself from the chains of public opinion. It allows you to move without apology, to strike without hesitation, to speak when others stay silent. It gives you the will to take what the timid dare not touch. The names history remembers, the conquerors, the founders, the revolutionaries, were all hated in their time. The crowds mocked them. Their peers whispered against them. Their enemies called them monsters. Yet history never asks if they were liked. It asks if they prevailed. The man, desperate to please all, becomes invisible. He softens his voice, avoids offense, bends until he breaks. He forgets how to refuse. He becomes the instrument others use to enforce their will. They praise him while he serves them and discard him once he's empty, smiling as they do. Affection is theater, and once the act ends, the crowd moves on. You must choose between the illusion of peace and the reality of progress. Because all real progress, political, financial, personal, demands that someone else's comfort be disturbed. You will be called cruel for being decisive, arrogant for being silent, heartless for cutting ties that weigh you down. Let them talk. Their noise is the echo of your rise. They are not judges, only spectators too timid to climb. If no one hates you, you are not leading. You are following or standing still. Hatred is the wind that tests your stride. It will come from beneath, from those who envy your rise. It will come from beside, from those who fear being left behind. And it will come from above, from those who sense you might surpass them. But the man who stops because of the storm never sees the summit. The road to power is not lined with kindness or applause. It is built from willpower, sharpened by discomfort, and sustained by the refusal to bow. The world does not reward harmless men. It uses them, drains them, and forgets them. To rise, you must do more than reject weakness. You must hunt it within yourself and kill it. The obedient dog must die, so the wolf may live. The creature that does not beg, does not flinch, does not wait for permission. The one that knows survival is not granted, it is taken. Let others seek nobility and submission. You, if you dare, must become what they fear to name. Not for cruelty, but for mastery. Not to destroy without reason, but to ensure you are never destroyed.